Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System. My guest this week, my very good friend, Ian Weaver. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Alexa. I'm doing well. Hi everyone. Glad to be here. My name's Ian. You might know me from Geeks Welcome here on YouTube, and I was formerly the head of Gaming Wildlife, doing videos, comedy videos about gaming and stuff. And yeah, glad to be here now.
And for those who don't know, Ian and I have a fair amount of history together. I think it goes back about 10 years.
Oh yeah, I think 2014 was around when you made yourself known to me with your old channel.
Yes.
Um, I don't know if we want to say the name of the old channel. I don't know if you're interested.
We can leave the names out. It's all good.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, you had contacted us while we were doing Gaming Wildlife. In fact, actually, you wrote a couple of episodes for us. If I'm remembering correctly, our most viewed video on the old channel was written by you.
Yeah, that's still on my CV.
Oh yeah, as well it should be.
It's on my CV and my LinkedIn.
Hmm.
That's not a joke, people. You can go check that out. It's public
Oh, yeah.
knowledge.
Unfortunately, I hope it has gotten you farther than it got me, because unfortunately, I really haven't been able to get many jobs by being like, oh yeah, I built a YouTube channel up to 200,000 subscribers. And most of the jobs that I've applied for have been like, eh.
Really?
Yeah, literally. The pandemic has been a fascinating time.
Gosh, because for me, genuinely, right? So I did, for anyone who doesn't know, I did kind of YouTube as a hobby for, I want to say like, well, I'd say full time in air quotes. I wasn't making a lot of money from YouTube, but I made like a small amount, like a few £100, a few $100 every month. But essentially, I did it kind of 2012, 2013, 2014 was at the peak of it for me. 15 kind of fizzled out. 16 I went to uni, so sidelined it. And then I kind of gave up or stopped like right at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. That was where I was kind of like, I've taken this as far as I can go. Because I felt like the sunken cost fallacy of like content creation of like, okay, well, I put in all this work, I made all these videos, had some success, but, you know, for the most part, you know, it kind of felt like I was doing a lot more, like putting a lot more in than I was getting out of it. So that's why we stopped. But we're starting up again.
Hmm.
And that's the
Yeah,
important thing.
absolutely. I think, like, honestly, despite the fact that I've had some mixed success myself when it comes to doing YouTube content and content creation, um, I like honestly, I encourage anyone to just try this, even if it is something as simple as like podcasting or just like streaming some random videos. You would be surprised. N- I guess not really how easy it is to build up an audience, but really just like you can connect with people in a way through content creation. And also it's just like you can literally build a studio in your home. Like literally just take a room in your home, put up a green screen, film some stuff, and just record there every so often. It, the barrier to entry is very low, but that's not a bad thing.
No. And we kind of spoke, I guess, in a similar vein about the rise of like civilian journalism and moreover the kind of advent of now, because the internet, anyone can kind of be and do anything. You know, my guest last week or a couple of weeks ago, whenever this one goes out, a previous guest, Callum Jones Carmel of the black metal band Abandon by Light, 10-year legacy, one of like the most respected black metal bands in the UK, all solo, all done from a bedroom, and then kind of ramped up as time has gone on. And that's the thing with content creation is like you can be anyone. You can come from nothing. And now, like when I got into content creation in 2012, you needed like a degree of hardware to be able to record. And now, back then you had like a PVR, like HD PVR or Hopog, Dazzle, whatever they were called. You had a physical capture card that would need to be plugged into a console, and then
An Elgato.
yeah, or an Elgato, and like yeah, those things are still around. They're so useful, fine, but the last two console generations have had the ability to live stream directly from the machines themselves, and they're fairly solid options. You can press the share button, go live, set everything up. If you have a camera attached to your console, that's all you need. Cheap webcam, cheap headset mic or whatever, and you can just go. Same with like computers nowadays, Shadowplay, OBS. There are Streamlabs. There are tons of different ways. Broadcast yourself in one button. That's all it takes. Minimal hardware nowadays. The barrier to entry is even lower.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I something that I've definitely appreciate, because although I did go to, like, originally I went to film school because I was like, I want to make movies. Halfway through doing film school, I had kind of become disillusioned with the idea that, like, I didn't want to spend the next decade of my life um being a like someone's assistant, with the possibility of maybe someday like moving up to a camera operator. That was like the industry that I was going to go into. But about halfway through my college career, all of a sudden like web series started popping up, and I'm like, oh, could I do this for a living? Like, this uses my skill set to just like make stuff from my home. That's awesome. And yeah, it's a lot easier and a lot more streamlined now. I remember when PS4 first came out and you could live stream from there. There was a whole like pre-made interface that was basically just like, "Hi, this is the PlayStation interface. Here's your face," but it's all like PlayStation stuff. But now it's just like so many people can just like set up their own live stream. They can set up their own like emotion, like emojis, their own like reactions very easily, and just have a brand for themselves that they can just jump onto at any time. And I think that I do really like that.
I like it too. So, for the people listening at home, you and me, we kind of became acquainted with each other when gaming wildlife was in its infancy. I remember finding some of your earliest videos, like the Proto Gamer, Omni Gamer, Gamer Girl Syndrome, Alpha, Beta Gamers, right when they were first coming out. And we can't talk about your old kind of haunting grounds, your old haunt, without bringing up, the series that kind of blew everything up, the 100% Honest Show. So
Oh
how
yeah.
about how about you kind of tell the people at home what that show is about? And obviously, you do a version of it now on Geeks Welcome too. I believe it's called If They Were Completely Honest with Us. Like you kind of go a little bit more into. I mean, the Wizard of the Coast when you did 2 months ago. That's what 40 minutes long.
Yeah, and right now we're actually working on a Hasbro one to follow up the Wizards of the Coast one, which is going to be probably about half an hour long as well. But yeah, the when we first started Gaming Wildlife, we had just come out of film school, me and several friends, and we had like for me, I had always found psychology and sociology interesting, and so I wanted to kind of apply that to gamer humor. And so I really liked the Crocodile Hunter, and I really liked David Attenborough, and I created this persona that was sort of a an oddball mixture of both. Being a, hey, let's look at gaming culture through the eyes of a nature documentarian, like treating gamers like they're people in a wildlife reserve. And in doing that series, we put a lot of effort into that, and it was getting moderate views, but nothing too huge. I would also branch off and just do short comedy videos every so often, because I just love comedy. It's something that I've kind of been a part of my entire life. And one of them was just a literally one-page rant of me pretending to be the CEO of Electronic Arts after SimCity 2013 just completely blew up. Like, that game was awful. It was plagued with so many problems in the first month, and it was just like, what if SimCity 4 was worse in every way? Like, I mean, there hasn't been a SimCity game since, and they've just completely killed the franchise. And so, yeah, I wrote this minute, like 3 minute long rant on just like, hi, I'm the CEO of Electronic Arts. We suck, yada, yada, yada. Um, and then about a year and a half after that video, we had done like another one about Valve, and we were writing one about Nintendo, but doing other like videos. And in January of 2014, that video exploded because it made it to the front page of Reddit. Someone posted it. It wasn't me because I tried to post our stuff to like Reddit and other websites, and people found it. They were like, "Eh." But someone else had posted it to the videos subreddit, made it to the top of the videos subreddit, which then made it to like top 10 on Reddit that day, and we clocked over 300,000 views in a week. And then all of a sudden, we went from 1,000 subscribers to 4,000 subscribers, and by the end of the year, we had 20,000 subscribers, and it kind of just kept climbing from there.
See, I remember when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when your channel had about 1,000 subs.
Oh yeah.
Maybe even
Uh,
earlier than that.
Oh yeah, it like I distinctively remember putting together the like analytics because numbers always fascinate me. Um, Within the first few months of the web series, we got to about 90 subscribers. Over 2013, we went from about 100 to 1,000. In 2014, we went to about 4,000 in a month, and then 20,000 by the end of the year. And by the next year, we had hit 100,000 and got our YouTube plaque.
I mean, that's quite an inspirational story.
Yeah.
But do you think that with like content creation, how it's changed from 2014 until now? Because the way I view YouTube in its current state, I believe that it's a completely different landscape nowadays. It's a completely different place. What do you think?
It is and it isn't. A big thing I've noticed is that you basically can't share YouTube videos on other websites. Like you can, but most other websites are going to reject that notion. People don't really want to watch a brand new YouTube video. They would rather watch something integrated within the website.
Yeah.
Um a lot in the past, like since the pandemic, a lot of YouTube's views have gone to their shorts because TikTok exploded and YouTube was like, well, we want to do that to compete with TikTok, and then YouTube Shorts exploded. Like, I I've seen so many YouTube Shorts that clocked in like 500 million views, and they've mostly been posted since 2000, like 2021. Like, a bunch of food videos. Maybe that's just me. I watch a lot of food videos. I like to cook, but we'll see people like uh Albert Can Cook clocking in 500 million of him making some spicy tacos. We'll see uh the Lionsfeld guys talking about different, the proper way to cook Italian pasta, getting 500 million views. The scope of YouTube right now, you're not going to see as many like long form videos or normal YouTube videos getting popular. What you'll see is shorts getting very popular and then having those shorts relate back to, hey, also we make long form content.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that too. I mean, I won't lie to you. I've never been a big fan of TikTok. I'm not a big fan of YouTube Shorts. I think it kind of perpetuates the idea of like doom scrolling on a phone. But moreover, it's like if someone wants to sit there and like create this content, curate around a minute long. I mean, I know TikTok goes up to 10 minutes, but YouTube Shorts, as far as I know, is 1 minute. At least it was. Maybe it's 3 minutes now. Who knows? But
They're introducing 3 minute videos. I don't think it's here yet, but they're going to start doing it soon.
what I found crazy was like the idea to like partner with YouTube now. You'd have to have something like I think it's like 100,000 watch hours. Because I understand that nowadays it's not about just views; it's about viewer retention. So
Yeah,
you could heat map a video and see, okay, well, this video is 5 minutes long, but people are clicking off in the first minute. That's not going to be as promoted in the algorithm as say an hour long video where 45 minutes, people are really in tuned.
YouTube has definitely they did this a while ago before YouTube Shorts had popped up, but they will uh your monetization goes up the longer that you can keep people engaged. And so because of this, the way that the whole YouTube landscape shifted, videos that are like 20 minutes started getting a lot more attention, and then 40 minutes, and then an hour long, and then multi-hour long videos started to get more attention. um and so it's created this overwhelming wave of video essayists. I mean, to be honest, I've also adopted that, because my honest series from the old channel Gaming Wildlife would range anywhere from like 3 minutes to maybe like five, and then occasionally like eight for the longer ones. But with the new channel, they're veering into the like 20, 30, 40 minute range. um and that's less, honestly, that's less me going, I want to do the video essay thing, and more just I stopped restricting myself and just simply said the videos are as long as they need to be to get out all the information I want to get out. And so the scripts just kind of started getting longer. Like literally the first script I made for this new channel ended up being a 20-minute video.
Because it's Geeks Welcome isn't your first kind of comeback after Gaming Wildlife. I mean, you don't have to go into the whole story about why GW wrapped up. I mean, if anyone's interested, you do have a video talking about it. But if you could kind of just like recount briefly what happened, you don't have
Yeah.
to, of course. But
No, that's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind talking about. There's some ups and downs there, but
sure.
basically, in late 2015, we had created an LLC to handle taxes and stuff on the YouTube channel, because we had started to make enough money where it's like, okay, this is going to pop up, like it's going to be a big deal for me on my taxes. So we're going to make an LLC. It's going to deal with the tax side of things, and then we can distribute the funds how we see. When I did that, my business partners at the time convinced me it was a good idea to share between the three of us. I was going to be the CEO, but then we were each going to take an equal share. And as soon as I did that, like I didn't want to do that at first. I just wanted me to have the majority, and they were going to be my employees. They convinced me to share it, and as soon as I did that, they took control of the web series. And in 2016, it was just kind of a giant dumpster fire behind the scenes. You wouldn't tell if you just watched the channel, because we were just making regular content, and it was fine. There was nothing wrong with the content, but just behind the scenes, it was kind of a giant dumpster fire, to the point where by the beginning of 2017, I had to walk away from the project because it had just become such a toxic environment. And they, after a series of long, like, after a lot of stuff, they basically sold the channel to a third party, and I ended up getting fired in 2018, about a week after my birthday. Like literally, I had just turned 30, and then was fired a week later. So that is a whole thing that happened. I do talk about it on Geeks Welcome. That was the first two videos we did was a, hey, I'm bringing back the Honest series because I just want to do this again, and also here's what happened to Gaming Wildlife in case you're a fan of the old channel. And yeah, it was kind of a gigantic mess. um just goes to show that you can't really, like, you need to have someone who can handle the business, but you, like like I knew what needed to happen with Gaming Wildlife. I needed to just put my foot down and say, no, you're going to listen to me or you're going to leave. And then they were probably going to leave, and then I just needed to just be like, well, I guess they're leaving. It's mine now. That was probably what I should have done, but I didn't, and I ruined a 200,000 or a 200,000 subscriber channel by doing that, unfortunately.
It's a real shame because, you had such a good thing going and you had such a close kind of group of friends all creating this really high production value kind of content. And obviously, like, on Geeks Welcome, it is as well, very high quality, high concept, maybe a bit more stripped back production wise because you don't have the same amount of resources and people. But when you kind of carried over to Geeks Welcome, I mean, from what I can see, there are a few new faces in the new show that weren't in the
Mhm.
original. So was it just you that kind of came over, or did you bring in anyone from the older kind of series who kind of jumped on board with you?
So yeah, Geeks Welcome is kind of half of Gaming Wildlife, basically. There were people who helped me pull it together. My friend Sean, who I've known basically since high school. Like he had done one episode of Gaming Wildlife, but he and I don't live in the same city, so it's not always easy for us to collab. Um, he and I pulled together a group of 5 friends to do sort of a I it's a podcast, but it we didn't publish the episodes. Like it was we recorded about 60 episodes and it was up to me to publish it, and I uh fell behind significantly. Um but we basically got together once a week and we would just sort of like chat and stuff. And they helped me sort of get back into the groove of doing content creation during the pandemic. Like literally we started doing this right around the time lockdown happened, and I was just like, I want to get back into doing content again. And so that helped push me into wanting to do like YouTube videos again. And with Sean's help, and also Jim, who had done a bunch of stuff with Gaming Wildlife, who is basically one like the best friend I've ever had is Jim. He is incredible. Sean has been a longtime friend of mine. Our friend Nathan, who had done a lot of music for Gaming Wildlife, he helped do some audio stuff for Geeks Welcome. Our friend Caleb, who is Sean's cousin, he like recorded some stuff with us as well. My friend Alex, who had done a few videos with Gaming Wildlife. Our friend Lance, who had done a few videos with Gaming Wildlife. Like a lot of them just sort of helped me push out of a bit of a slump I had been, especially since the pandemic had started. And so we all just started doing this podcast, which eventually got me into being like, okay, I'm comfortable enough again to do content creation. Why don't I start a new YouTube channel? And we brainstormed a name that was similar to Gaming Wildlife because we wanted to evoke some of the like we wanted to get back some of the audience that we had lost, but also kind of like evoke similar ideas to Gaming Wildlife. I like geek culture. I like gaming culture. I want to be able to make videos about it and kind of poke fun of it, but also kind of like embrace the weirder side of it. And so that's what Geeks Welcome is. It was just me sort of getting back into the rhythm of being able to do content creation again.
Sounds really cool. I mean, I remember, I don't know if it was straight after, but I think there was an in between. To my knowledge, it was called Jump Drive. Is that right?
Yeah, so Jump Drive was sort of the precursor to Geeks Welcome, but it never really took off. I don't know. This is me kind of just getting stuck in my own head, but I always was like, the name's gotta stick in a way that feels comfortable to me. Because Gaming Wildlife was just perfect. That was a perfect name. It is a gaming channel. We are pretending to be like a wildlife nature documentary, and so that name just rolled right off the tongue. Jump Drive Mines was neat, and uh, it didn't really evoke anything. Was the problem is that it's just a name. Like hearing like everyone knows who like Charlie, aka Critical, is, but his channel name is Penguin Zero, penguins with a Z and then the number zero, and it's like despite the fact that he's got 16 million subscribers, that doesn't really evoke anything. I wanted to be able to create a channel that you could just see it and you would get a basic idea what of what the channel was. And so Geeks Welcome is GW like Gaming Wildlife, but it's also a very like open and welcoming idea as that geeks welcome. Geeks, you are welcome here. And so I wanted to create something that was uh was a lot more positive and wholesome, but also just sounded very, very nice, just rolling off the tongue. The problem with Jump Drive Mines is that it just Jump Drive Mines. What does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything. It just sounded cool at the time.
And I think as now with Geeks Welcome, it gives you the level of control. Like you are the sole owner. It's your vision. It's what you want to do first and foremost.
Yeah, because I realized that even during the pandemic, I wrote a couple of honest episodes that I wanted to publish, but I didn't really have a place to publish because I wanted to have a YouTube channel that wasn't just my name. It wasn't just Ian Weaver's channel. It was a channel about something. And I just found that I wanted to keep making this kind of YouTube content. I like doing this sort of thing. I like being able to like look at a big corporation and go, "Hey, let's make fun of them for doing dumb stuff." And the big thing that kind of pushed me back into this was NFTs and my absolute disdain for them because they are just a massive, massive, like the scam. That's what it was.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I stumbled over that word. It's a scam. It's a horrendous scam. And the more I learned about cryptocurrency, I'm like, oh, that's a horrendous scam too. Oh, this is what the episode's going to be about. This is what's going to push me back into doing content again. And so I did this like 8-page, 20-minute episode that's me looking like a crypto bro, being like, hey, here's how crypto's completely screwing you over.
Well, that's the
um,
worst part. I mean, the fact that crypto and I mean NFTs as well. The fact that NFTs kind of I remember watching a recent Futurama and a recent Simpsons episodes
hmm,
where I think it was the horror ones where there was a Simpsons episode from like last year where Homer became the first human NFT, and I've just realized it was like the show has gone on long enough to where NFTs have become recognized, and yet they were joking about NFTs becoming valueless in the same episode. Like I feel like we're over the hill with NFTs now. But a couple of years ago, with you had what was it? The board ape yacht club.
yeah.
You had the thousands of different versions. I remember like the crypto bros I'm gonna buy 2 or 3 bored apes, and then it was the whole tirade against the right clickers. Like, oh well, you can save the image, but I own the original code and the blockchain that belongs to me, and it's
The
just
Yeah, the weird thing is with like cryptocurrency, and this is the only praise I'm going to say about it because I absolutely loathe cryptocurrency. But the original idea was noble in what they wanted to do.
oh yeah, like decentralizing
Yeah, because
currency away from like nations and big banks and stuff. I get that.
it had literally started up in the wake of the 2008 recession with the housing crisis and banks basically buying buying their way back into capitalism that was 2008. And so a bunch of people started the idea of cryptocurrency to try and get away from get away from the rules and restrictions of that. And noble in concept, but the execution is horrendously flawed at every possible turn. Like every time, like do any amount of research into cryptocurrency, you're like, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, wait, that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work either. Oh, the whole thing's just flawed. It's just falling apart at the seams.
And that's the biggest problem, really, because it's like, yes, it's decentralized, but if you don't have a kind of central kind of flow or tunnel for it to go down, that's why it's so volatile. Of course, people can become incredibly rich, and they have done. But then I think about cryptocurrency. I think about people like Boogie2988.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, he did get involved in that, didn't he?
Massively. He went out a couple of years ago. I'm rich. Crypto made me rich. I'm a liquid millionaire. The fact that crypto bros invented the term liquid millionaire is so funny to me. Essentially, what that means, it's like, hey, my stocks, as long as they hold at this exact value or appreciate the way it's projected in the next month, I will theoretically be worth $1 million. And
I
then
mean,
oh yeah, you go. Sorry.
no, there have been literal entire films that have talked about this just from the perspective of like Wall Street. It's basically just the next iteration of Wall Street, just even more volatile, and it will fall apart. Not even just like might fall apart, will fall apart. Deliberately coded and created with the idea that a small group of people will make money off of this and nobody else will.
Yeah, and I think that that's the most kind of the damning thing about like NFTs and cryptocurrency and like even content creation to a degree. You know, there are certain types of not maybe not unethical, but certain types of content we could all be making that would probably game us the system, you know.
Yes, I've definitely thought about that before.
Me
Like
too.
even TikTok in general, like because I for one went to film school. I learned how to make movies the traditional way. Well, not the traditional way, not with film, but with excuse me, with video cameras, being able to set up, record audio separately, put them together in post production, that sort of thing, and w- like TikTok in general, like obviously you want to go where the audience is. If you're putting on the greatest stage production of Shakespeare's Hamlet anyone's ever seen on a park bench in the middle of Central Park where two homeless guys are watching you, I mean, neat, but no one's going to watch you. You want to do that on a stage. You want to be able to
Yeah.
go to where the audience is. But just in general, I don't particularly like vertical videos. That having been said, there's an entire generation of people who are literally learning about the production of film, literally learning the process with vertical video. And so it's something I kind of begrudgingly go along with because it's just what people like now. And you kind of have to be able to adapt to the times.
With that said though, do you think that TikTok and YouTube Shorts, do you think that they're going to have the staying power that traditional video has had on like YouTube or even, you know, because YouTube is very, very nearly 20 years old, rather. It's nearly 20 years old. I think
It
it's
will
like,
in fact it will in fact turn 20 years old next year in February.
yeah. And, you know, we've seen, you know, there's been rise and fall of certain types of content, short form into longer form. But videos as they've existed, you know, 16 by 9 or 21 by 9 or, you know, the traditional long form, that's never going to go away. At least it won't ever be replaced, I don't think.
No,
But
it won't be replaced. The TikTok is basically applying the mobile representation to video in general. Like, people don't hold their phones sideways, they typically hold their phones vertically. And so it's less about this is the new wave of film and more just about uh, you're changing the format to better fit how people normally act. Like, no one's going to hold their phone sideways to for long periods of time. They're holding their phone up for long periods of time. And so because of that, vertical video is becoming popular. It has become the most popular because that's just how people hold phones. If it had become the norm for decades for people to hold their phones horizontally, then horizontal video would still be king. But because vertical video just matches, because yeah, the mobile in general has changed the landscape of video games. It has changed the landscape of videos. It's changing the landscape of like how we read books. The ability to sort of take everything you want with you has dramatically changed how we live our lives. And so I feel like traditional video will never really go away and that mobile video for at least probably at least the next decade is going to stay on top, but traditional video is never actually going to go away because most televisions, most like computer monitors are still done, with horizontal videos. That's not just going to disappear because mobile is the most convenient way now. We're going to find a more convenient way after like mobile, and then that's going to be the way that people watch video.
It's a really good point.
Mhm.
I believe as well. I mean, I think my skepticism around TikTok, if you look outside of like, the U.S. Congress trying to ban it, and the kind of various controversies around, TikTok affecting children, their kind of concentration, their attention span, the rise of ADD, things like that. I think it kind of boils down to the fact that TikTok wasn't the first big mobile push. There was Musically before it, there was Vine before that,
Yeah.
and it kind of seems like the landscape, it's incredibly popular now, but will the bubble burst in the same way as Vine did? I kind of feel like
Well,
we're on the kind of the precipice of that now.
possibly, I don't see TikTok going away anytime soon, which is why I said about a decade. I feel like the this is one thing that has kind of followed me as I'm doing content creation on YouTube. The kind of an imposter syndrome kind of situation, like, why do I keep doing this? What's the point? And the one thing that I've noticed with like streaming services becoming big, with TikTok becoming big, with Twitch becoming big, with moving away from traditional TV, people want stories. People want to watch a video. They want to be able to come together, watch a thing, and then talk about that thing with their friends and family. That will never go away. We are storytellers as a species. We want to hear someone else say, "Did you hear about this weird thing? Let me tell you about this weird thing." It like literally go back in history and look at us, and you see like oral storytellers from like 10,000 plus years ago, all of a sudden switching over to, hey, what if we took this quill, dipped it in some ink, and put it on a page, and then boom, we now have the written word. This is sort of just the next evolution of storytelling. And while TikTok is very popular now, there will be something that replaces it. There will be something that will become more convenient than mobile, and we will then move in that direction because people want stories. They want to be able to listen to a thing, to have someone say, and then a monster jumped out, boo, and they're like, oh, I got scared, or then it's just like, and then the two of them fell in love, and you're like, oh, I feel so happy. We want stories. Right now, it's just the best mediums for like the internet are YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, and various other streaming services.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, we're always going to be storytellers, like you say. If the medium changes, then the kind of the length or the method. I mean, look back to, as you say, go back really far in history. You had people, cavemen painting on the walls to illustrate what was going on, and then it became like people, like as you say, like recounting verbally, and then bards would go around playing and kind of singing the stories, and now it's gone from like, hey, we used to watch on a computer to we now scroll on our phones. And
Yeah.
on the subject of mobile convenience,
Mhm.
the Nintendo Switch. Check out that segue.
Oh, that's a great segue. But yeah, the Switch. I've been a fan of Nintendo literally since I was like a little kid. It is the it really does feel like Nintendo spent about a decade just sort of figuring out what's the next big innovation for us. And when the Switch came out, it really was that. Like, it's now the third highest selling console of all time, second only to their own console, the DS,
And the PS2.
and the PlayStation 2, which kind of cheated by basically just like they sold so many units they stopped like counting. They're just like, it's some number over 160 million, we don't know.
Based. But with the
But
Nintendo.
yeah,
Oh, sorry, you go.
well, I mean, just like I'm wondering about what could they possibly do for Switch 2, because that's what a lot of like I dear God, whenever, because you can go on your YouTube the mobile app that they have for content creators, YouTube Studio, and you can look up recommendations. They're like, based on what your audience is doing, this is what we think you should make a video on. I swear to God, every week they're like, you should make a video on Switch 2. And I'm like, we don't know anything about Switch 2. Why are you asking me to make content about it? And then I look up other videos that people are doing, and they basically boil down to, we don't know anything about it. Here's our guesses.
Well, I could tell you a few things that I know, but I don't think I'm allowed to.
Oh, okay. No, don't worry. I have some insider knowledge that I probably shouldn't share either, but about other things.
The only thing I think I'm permitted to say is I know people that have seen the Switch 2. I know people that have seen it running, and I know where they saw it running, and when, and a rough time frame on when the Switch 2 may or may not be announced. That's all I can say.
Right. I mean, we can, because that's the big thing about what I do with the Honest series is that I go off of what public information is, and I've worked in like corporate events here and there, and I can kind of tell you what, like, from an insider's perspective, what uh corporate how corporate people like think and how they talk and how they move forward from a business standpoint. So I can speculate what the whole thing is. We've seen some patent images pop up on various
Yeah, there have
websites.
been a few. There's been a couple patents. There's been a few supposed renders. I mean, we roughly know, at least we have a pretty good guess of what might be the official SoC, which I think I can say this because it's been rumored a few times. Supposedly, allegedly, it'll be the Nvidia TO29 SoC, which is
I
roughly equivalent to like what would be like a 4050, give or take, by Nvidia.
Yeah, when it comes to technical specifications, I don't know. All I know is that I've seen some patent images that look like there's going to be a like much bigger dock on the back, but it's still going to be able to have the two separate Joy Cons that you can pull
Yes,
away from the console. It's going to be in higher definition. Supposedly, the Joy Cons are magnetic,
yes.
which I
So
don't know how. Like magnets can lose their luster over time. Does this mean like 10 years down the road, your Joy Cons won't be able to like latch on anymore?
well, it could be something like the Lenovo Legion Go, which has magnetic detachable controllers, which kind of snap on. But you're right, because that's a new system of like a year or so ago,
Mhm.
versus like in 10 years, will it be as effective? I mean, the big rumors for the Switch 2, just rumors, pure speculation, allegedly, not confirming anything, obviously.
Mhm.
Supposedly, 1080p display, 8-inch screen, magnetic Joy-Cons, and supposedly some light ray tracing functionality.
Mhm.
It'll basically be like a PS4, like a mobile PS4 with,
Okay.
yeah.
Because yeah, a lot of people make fun of Nintendo for being like, "Oh, their systems are not top of the line," but it's
They never
like,
have been.
no, they never have been, and that's not really the point of Nintendo. Nintendo's here to like fun games had by as many like fun games for quote the whole family is like line number one on every Nintendo game. It's like we're gonna do that first, and then top of the line hardware is like seventh.
Yeah, and plus, like, to be honest, Nintendo were the only company that kind of corners the market with their exclusives. I mean, Xbox doesn't have any exclusives anymore. Everything comes to PC. A lot of Xbox games are now coming to PS5.
Mhm.
Sea of Thieves did. Rumors, heavy rumors, Starfield might do. You know,
Yeah, I
Hi-Fi Rush as well. That came to PS5.
so if you want a little bit of an insight on how I look at how I do my videos, right now I'm conceptualizing a Sony episode that basically boils down to what's the point of the PlayStation anymore. Like when you look at all of this, Nintendo has a ton of exclusives and they kind of do their own thing. Mobile games are accessible by everyone, PC has always just sort of been if you want the top of the line games, you buy a PC, and Xbox has a huge market dominance with the Game Pass and the fact that every 90% of computers run Windows. What does that leave PlayStation?
Well, I think that's a really interesting idea. I mean, literally today, well, today as of recording this, Spider-Man 2 got a PC announcement date. So
Yes.
it's been announced for January 2025.
But you need a PlayStation account to run it.
Yeah, fine, but you can make one of those for free in like 30 seconds.
Yes, but that was also the big problem with Helldivers 2 and why people didn't want to play the PC version of Helldivers, because it required that connection to the PlayStation account, and people were just like, "Oh, we're not going to do that," and they just didn't. They just left, and literally the developers had to go in and go, "Okay, you're not required to do that," so that they could get the majority of their audience to come back.
Well, hopefully Sony learned from that mistake with Spider-Man 2. But
They didn't.
what I understand is I bought Spider-Man 2 when it came out. I played it on PS5. I enjoyed it, but I think it's like a 7 out of 10 game at best.
Sure.
And my biggest problem with Sony games, I said this I think a couple of weeks ago on an older show, but Sony's or PlayStation's games have become very homogenous in my opinion. So the bulk of them are cinematic, over-the-shoulder crafting games with survival elements, like Horizon, The Last of Us, even Days Gone, Ghost of Tsushima to a lesser extent. Mm-hmm. They've got a roadmap, a very sort of similar theme going on.
Do you allow swearing on this podcast?
Yeah, man, say whatever.
Okay. Ben Croshaw, who does
Yahtzee,
who used to do Zero Punctuation, and
who now does
Fully Ramblomatic.
That's it.
He coined the term Jiminy Cockthroat.
Yes, he did. And don't forget Spunk Goggle Wee Wee.
Oh yeah, no, Spunk, that one's just ridiculously silly. But he coined the term Jiminy Cockthroat to basically represent a game that is open world, survival, crafting, over the shoulder, third person action game with either fighting combat or shooting mechanics.
Yeah.
With possibly some kind of RPG system in there. Basically just taking the most popular mechanics right now in the world of video games and mashing them into a generic sandbox. And that most sandbox games fall into the Jiminy Cockthroat model nowadays.
I'm just fucking sick of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I know
yeah.
I know Ubisoft's a punching bag now, right? But
as well they should.
So I will say this, okay, there are some really good people at Ubisoft. They've been very good to me over the years. However, thank you for the Star Wars Outlaws code. Appreciate it. However, that game is fucking terrible.
Oh, it is? Because
it's bad.
I remember the first real sandbox I ever got into was Fallout 3. But I've played a bunch of sandboxes over the years, and this is going to sound very strange. They all feel the same. It's all the same kind of, it's not inherently bad. It's like oatmeal. There's nothing inherently wrong with oatmeal. It's just, it is a foodstuff. It is a very bland foodstuff. And you can kind of do whatever you want with it, but it's dull. It's not a cheeseburger. It's not curry. It's not sushi. It is simply oatmeal. And all sandbox games, and blanket statement, all of them kind of feel like oatmeal to me. And it all just kind of blends together after a while. Here's the oatmeal that tastes like Pokemon. Here's the oatmeal that tastes like Zelda. Here's the oatmeal that tastes like Fallout. Here's the oatmeal that tastes like God of War. Here's the oatmeal that tastes like Spider-Man. It's all kind of the same.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'll tell you one thing. I feel like open world games, I mean, I'm not a big fan of them anymore. I don't know if you can infer that, but open world games, they're kind of a lie in the fact that a lot of these trailers, a lot of the preamble, they go, hey, you can be anyone. You can do anything. You can go anywhere. See that mountain? You can go to it. You can do whatever you want. Just abandon the main storyline and just make your own fun. It's a sandbox, but there are so few games that actually do that right. The only one I can think of off the top of my head, Red Dead Redemption 2, probably the only actually decent sandbox game where you literally, the world lives and breathes around you. Most of the time, like my favorite game of all time is Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, really?
Come at me in the comment section. I don't care. Yeah, it's true. My favorite game of all time.
All right. I've played it, and again, it's cyberpunk oatmeal.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine.
But genuinely, I think I would like it more if it was fucking linear.
Yeah. That is the unfortunate truth about sandboxes, that everything starts to taste like oatmeal. You can make it savory, you can make it sweet, you can make it thicker, you can make it like runnier, you can make it like a soup or a porridge or a stew, or I don't know, fry it up and turn it into bread, maybe, I don't know. But it all kind of just eventually feels and tastes the same. Whereas a linear game can be like any other meal. It can be a salad. It can be a sausage. It can be something else. Like, a linear game has to finally it has to craft a very specific thing for you to enjoy. And the problem is, you have to be very careful about how you craft it. There's a good chance that someone's just not going to like it, but you have to be deliberate in how you do it. A sandbox can kind of just be. You can kind of leave it open for the most part, and so everything kind of does become homogenous after a while.
I think it's the idea of like a game for everyone simultaneously can become a game for no one.
Yes, it absolutely can. You want to be able to. It is much better to craft a game for one specific demographic and then be like, cool, this game is for these people, and have someone come in and go, I would have never thought about this, but I saw someone else play it, and oh, you're a lawyer and you're defending other people, and it's literally just like, oh, Ace Attorney's pretty cool. Like, for example, um, there's no sandbox elements to Ace Attorney. There is
No.
one. There is one pathway. You will follow it, and then you get to make decisions along the way. But it's really damn fun. Um, the problem with sandbox games, like I said, they all just kind of feel the same after a while.
100%. And I think as well for me, the reason why I don't jive with open world games like I did 10 years ago, it's the lie of player agency. The idea that, okay, let's take immersive sims, kind of, or something like Hitman, like the new Hitman trilogy. They have open-ended levels that are not themselves open worlds, but they're smaller kind of areas, open-ended but still contained, which give you many opportunities to do things. That you have like your agency within the world. That you can go about your objective however you want. You have true freedom. And the problem with a lot of open world games is they give you the illusion of freedom. Take for example, one of the only great like open world games to do this, like the Phantom Pain. Genuinely, you can go about the Phantom Pain 100 different ways. In Horizon Zero Dawn, if you have, I don't know, a tall neck to take down, for instance, there's one way of doing it. If you're playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, there's only one way you're getting from A to B. The way that I see it, a lot of open world games, they feel like padding, like filler. You're playing these experiences with, okay, the traversal is not fun. I'm fast traveling from one location to another to avoid this shit. I don't want to go on side missions. I don't care about, the Ubisoftification of going to the 1,000 different icons on a map. I just want to do the most interesting thing to me. And if you can't present me with an interesting kind of premise or give me a goal or let me kind of make my own fun or discover something, then this is all just a fucking empty void. There's nothing here for me.
Yeah, that's, again, to bring up Ben Croshaw, who is a man that I probably base too much of my opinions and personality on. He himself has said before, you can spend an afternoon in exploring a blank sheet of paper. Yes, a blank sheet of paper gives you endless possibilities, but the whole purpose of exploring is in the finding. I need to find something that makes me interested, find something that is worth my time. Otherwise, you have given me a blank sheet of paper. It looks the same.
It's true. So we mentioned Pokemon a minute ago, and I know you had some kind of Pokemon opinions for me.
So, yeah, speaking also, going back to the whole Switch thing, Pokemon had some big leaks recently talking about future games and stuff. One of the things they were talking about is that Generation 10 is apparently coming out relatively soon, and it's going to be featured on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. They literally did say that it's going to be like the first cross platform Pokemon game. And kind of fascinated about that, but also a lot of people. So a basically there was a big leak in Game Freak, and they were talking about a bunch of information, a bunch of scrapped story ideas. That's the big thing. They were scrapped story ideas for Generation 4 and 5. One of them was this long story about how Typhlosion as a Pokemon came to be. Basically, like kidnapped a young woman, had sex with her a bunch, and then she gave birth to a like half human, half Typhlosion thing, and that eventually became the modern iteration of Typhlosion. And a lot of people were just like horrified by this, and a lot of people were horrified by similar stories with Lapras and Octillery and Slackoff. And they're just like, oh, these ruined these Pokemon for me. And I'm like, they scrapped these ideas. A, they were like, this is kind of interesting, but maybe we shouldn't do this, and so they didn't. People are missing that point. And B, they're also based on mythical creatures. These are real stories from mythology, and guess what? Mythology is fucked up.
It is.
Like really, like spend 5 minutes learning about the history of the Greek god Zeus. He's
He's
done
not. He's not a good guy.
he's done some shit. Like like
Like you wanted to work out why Kratos was trying to kill that motherfucker.
yeah. Go down to Earth dressed as a swan and have sex with a woman. Yeah, that's what Zeus did. That's one of the 8 billion dumb shit
That's pretty
things
funny.
Zeus did. But yeah, like people are upset about these mythologies. It's like this is based on mythology. All Pokemon in some way, shape, or form are based off of our own mythology, just sort of taken in a different direction. And also, these are scrapped story ideas. I think a lot of them realized, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a bad idea. Okay, let's scrap it, and thus they did. But people are getting real upset over a thing that never officially got made. Like, it was never official. It's just like, could we do this? We probably shouldn't. And that was the end of it. And then later on, people found out that they were considering this idea, and now they're upset about it. I'm like, calm down.
I feel like a lot of people will get upset over things that they probably shouldn't do, though.
Oh, I mean, that's just how the algorithmic world we live in works. It's like, it's better to get engagement from rage than it is to get engagement from any other thing.
The backlash to the backlash to the thing that's just begun.
Hmm. That happens to me all the time. I can't tell you how often I'll be like on Facebook or Reddit, and I will see someone reacting to a thing that other people were reacting to. I never saw the original thing.
No.
I only heard about the backlash to the original thing, and I'm like, I've never even heard of this. What the hell is this about? And then the next week we've moved on to something else, and I was like, okay, it wasn't that important then. It's just like someone says something controversial, a bunch of people make reactions to the controversial thing, and what I see is the reaction to the controversial thing, and I never really get a chance to like give my 2 cents on maybe we're taking this a little too far.
I think that's the thing, though. A lot of people they'll act before they think, they'll speak before they know. And
Well,
we live in an age of information now where it's very common, say, Twitter, for instance, there'll be a post that gets reacted to, and then that will get quoted, that'll get ratioed, where, the amount of comments will outshine the amount of likes. And you can always get caught up in like the mob mentality of it. Do you take 5-10 minutes to read into like deep dive into what it's even about, or do you just follow the herd if it's easier?
And again, this relates to the kind of videos that I like to write for Geeks Welcome. I want to write about things that I feel like are evergreen. I want to be able to talk about this was an important moment, or this is something that will have relevance later, and I want to be able to discuss it. It's one of the reasons why I didn't end up doing a video on I don't know, Pal World. People were just like, "Hey, you did a couple of Pokemon videos. Talk about Pal World." And I looked at Pal World and just thought to myself, "No one's gonna care about this next year."
It's true.
Like,
I mean, no,
I
no one
like
did.
no one did. They were popular for a minute, and then most of their fan base dropped off. And then later on, Nintendo was just like, "Hey, I think you actually did do some intellectual copyright stuff, so we're gonna like sue you for intellectual property rights." And no one even cared about that. Like I remember
No.
a lot of friends were just like, "This is the Pokemon killer," and I'm just looking at this going, "This is gonna disappear in a month." And guess what happened a month later? Helldivers 2.
Well, this is like the rise of like the fad games. So
Mm,
for anyone who doesn't know, I'm a gaming editor now. I've been covering video games full time professionally for about 4 or 5 years, and there's always the big fad game.
yeah.
I didn't jump on Helldivers 2. I could have. I didn't have the time to invest in it, and so February went by, April, May, June, player counts dipped off. Power World, that was huge in January, kind of wrapped up by April.
Yep.
Because there's always going to be a next big fad game. And
Yeah.
it brings me on to something I wanted to mention while I've got you.
Mhm.
We are at the 10th anniversary of Five Nights at Freddy's, the first
Oh yeah.
big fad game.
Oh god, FNAF. I have complicated feelings with Five Nights at Freddy's because in general, I love the series.
Yeah.
The fans are less in my in my eyes.
Because
Like,
the actual children, that's the worst part.
well, the thing is, there's a lot about Five Nights at Freddy's. There's a lot that they do that I like, and there's a lot about it that's really good. I love the concept of a horror game that is scary, but doesn't necessarily do anything horrific on screen. A lot of it is all implied. Because really, the best horror games should tell you something spooky is going to happen, and then you do all of the scaring yourself. That's like how Silent Hill can pull that off, how PT was able to pull that off. Like, yeah, you might get jump scared by a monster, but 95% of the time, that doesn't happen. You're
No.
just anticipating the next thing that happened.
It's the
I've
dread, it's the anticipation.
Yeah, and I think FNAF did that wonderfully.
Initially.
Uh, yeah, initially. So the sorry, I'm being distracted. FNAF, I liked the concept that no gore ever happens. Like all the games, no gore. Now, horrible things happen behind the scenes, and you hear about it, but you never see it. It's one of the few times that Hell Don't Show works really well. It's the exception to the rule that you can hear some kids were killed and it was horrifying. You can hear a girl was scooped up and it's horrifying. You can hear deaths happened and it's horrifying. You never see it though. All
Yeah.
you see is a animatronic jump in and go rawr, and then the game goes, "Oh, you died," and it it was great. It really was. It was great how they were able to do that. How it kind of changed the paradigm of horror. Instead of you have to keep moving forward, the horror is coming to you. you have to hold it off as long as you can. And it was such a fascinating shift in perspective.
And what do you think
It
was the downfall of like Five Nights at Freddy's?
it's hard to say really, because for a while there we were all enraptured with all of the ideas that Scott was coming up with. I think it was just like anything else, if you do something too quick, too much too quickly, it kind of falls off.
Yeah,
Like, I can't really say that there's, other than maybe FNAF World, there's not really a Five Nights at Freddy's game that's bad. I can't really say that there is a single bad game. It's just that there's a lot of it now.
yeah,
And especially from a storytelling standpoint, Scott has gone on record basically saying he was kind of making it up as he went along. There wasn't really an overall, like, a long term thing. It was just like, three was supposed to be the definitive ending. No, wait, four is the definitive ending. Actually, no, we're going to do a side story about five. No, six wraps everything up. Here's Ultimate Custom Night. Also, there's more lore. And then he kind of like, here's a good example for those of you who are movie fans. He kind of became the Christopher Nolan of this series. He kind of became enraptured with himself. He kind of got a little too, his ego got a little too big. Like, there was the same problem with Hello Neighbor. Once you get invested in the fan base and you want to be able to sort of like feed into the fans, you kind of start to lose a bit of control of what you want out of the series. Like, I'm all for fan service, obviously, but you need to be able to find the happy. Like, you need to be able to not just like give them what's the lore. He takes everything in a completely different direction. It kind of feels like the lore changes every single game, and after a while you're just like, I don't know, a good story has an ending. You can't just end and then end again and then end again and then end again. You need to like actually finish.
it's the Friday 13th problem.
Kind of, yeah. Have I told you before? It makes me so upset that Friday the 13th has 12 films.
Why?
12.
But
There is not a 13th Friday the 13th.
it took me a second to get that. Yeah.
Like, I'm so upset that makes me unreasonably upset because I do love horror films, but there are only 12
Well,
Friday the 13th
we
movies.
live in a world now, where there are so many reboots and reimaginings.
Yeah,
I know we had a Friday reboot in 2009, but
I
if
kind of liked it.
I thought it
I,
was okay. Yeah, I
I thought
liked
it
it
was
well
pretty
enough.
good. It was not like, it's got like a 1 star on either, I can't remember which website, but most websites will rate it really low. I liked it. I thought it was fine.
I think apart
It,
from like Jason running, I kind of draw the line there. He should be
eh,
a slow, lumbering motherfucker. But
he is, but also the that film also revealed that he's got kind of like this underground network, so he can get between places really easily. Which again, I don't mind that. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, I'm all for reasonable explanations for why someone's able to do theoretically supernatural things, even though the Jason films went in a weird supernatural direction.
well, they did. They just kind of like spun out of control. I mean, I'm of the belief that the first movie, it's a classic, fine, but it's not a terribly good movie in my opinion.
Oh no, it's not. It was literally made on the tiniest budget ever. And from an editing standpoint, there's way too many shots that linger on way too long.
Yeah,
Obviously, they're trying to create an atmosphere, but also, like, it was made on, I think, a $26,000 budget or some
my God.
absurdly low number. Even for the 1980s, it was a ridiculously low number for a film. Like, it was made on such a tiny budget and then made a ton of money because of how like low tech it was. People kind of dug the guerrilla and gritty nature of it. It was the Evil Dead kind of situation, made on a microscopic budget, but then people just really liked it.
That's what I liked about the Saw movies, though. The fact that like the first Saw was made, obviously, no, I think it was like $1 million they made it on.
Yeah,
But
and they reused a lot of the footage to sort of like try and show you different angles. Um, I kind of feel like that first film doesn't hold up as well as some of the later ones, but um, same with Friday the 13th. But yeah, it's that like people really like that sort of grungy, gritty feel, and not only that, knowing what I know about the film industry, horror films are made on microscopic budgets. You need four things: you need a monster that jumps out and goes boo, a lady who shows her tits, blood thrown onto the screen, and someone gets something cut off.
on that subject, what did you think about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie?
I don't hate it. It is some wasted potential, but it was a bad idea in the first place to try and make a film out of Five Nights at Freddy's. It just is. I
They
know
had a
there's a
couple. They had
lot.
a couple scripts out of it though, because I think they had one that got abandoned that became Wally's Wonderworld with Nicolas Cage, and I would
I do.
argue that that's a better movie overall.
I maybe it's just me. I think this is kind of a weird one, but the what was that one that was based on an actual children's show, but then they turned it into a horror film about the like animatronics and stuff. It was one of those. Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's movies not coming out for a while. We're just going to make one to capitalize on this. It
Oh
was.
God, yeah, yeah. Oh, I can't think. I can picture it in my head, but I can't think of the name.
Mhm. Let's see.
Yeah, that. God, that's gonna bother me now. But
Because yeah,
yeah,
the
the
banana splits.
that's it. That's the one.
That one is trash, and I love it. It is absolute trash, and I love it. I think it's dumb but really fun.
I I think my biggest problem with I've seen the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I've seen it twice. I watched it opening night, basically sober, and then the
Hmm.
second time I got around to it, I watched it completely blackout drunk. And I will say I didn't enjoy it either time.
Yeah, it like my. I think the biggest. Maybe it's just me because I'm biased, but the biggest issue was they were going to have Mark Fishbach, Markiplier, as the first guy who dies in the film. He was supposed to be the first victim, but because the film industry is kind of a chaotic thing, Mark was filming Iron Lung at the time. He was already making his own film, and so they're like, "We're filming Five Nights at Freddy's right now. We want you to come." And Mark's like, "I can't. I'm in production of my own movie. I have to do this." And so, unfortunately, they clashed, and he wasn't able to be in the first film. He was supposed to be the guy that got killed at the very beginning, which would have been perfect. And unfortunately, didn't happen.
I mean, there were a few YouTuber cameos like Matt Pat. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I nearly walked out during the Matt Pat scene the second time.
Really?
I don't care for him personally, but
Aw.
I don't know. I'm one of those cynical people. I never really cared for game theory or film theory,
I
whatever it became.
I think well, I think game theory obviously had some ups and downs, but I do like Matt Pat in general.
I liked when it was actually scientific before it became like an imitation of creepy gaming with like
Well,
50
the
times the
other
install base.
right, the other problem is that you well, okay, I feel like we kind of need to wrap this up because I'm getting close to I have to be done with this soon, but I feel like just in general the content creation to sort of bring this back around, we are in a place where content creation can just go forever. And from a storytelling standpoint, you can't just do that. There needs to be an actual end to it. I feel like when he stopped being scientific about it was when he was just like being pushed by the algorithm to just make as many videos as possible. In the same way that you can't just like he didn't want to become the Simpsons, just making new seasons every year over and over and over again, there had to be a definitive ending to it. And as like as someone who's trying to break into the content creation world, walking away from like 10 million subscribers is something that I'm just like, I cannot fathom, mostly because I've lived in poverty most of my life. But uh, just I can understand being like, I feel like there's not really much left to say. There's not really much left to do. Like, TV shows are not supposed to go on forever. They're supposed to end, and then something different is supposed to take their place. And so, yeah, it's the way that we live in, like, the idea of a television series having thousands of episodes is insane, but having a YouTube channel have thousands of videos is expected.
Yeah, that's a really good way to think. It's very poignant. Well, I think you're
There
right.
need there does need to be an ending at some point, but the way that the world of YouTube exists now, you are incentivized to just keep going forever.
Run on the wheel,
Mhm.
the perennial wheel that never runs out.
The weird thing is, the more I get older, the more I understand why Bill Watterson decided to stop doing Calvin and Hobbes.
Everything has to end. It's like, would you rather go out on top or see everything get, just plummet into the ground?
Yeah. But I
With,
also appreciate the idea that sometimes people can take some time off and then come back and go, you know what, I kind of want to do this again.
unless you're Doctor Disrespect.
Yeah, he just needs to stop.
My God. Well, do you have any closing thoughts of the people at home?
Um, if you are even remotely interested in trying content creation, do it. Get a camera, get a microphone. My hot tip is focus more on the audio than the video because people want to be able to hear something cool. Like, you can have a crappy video camera but really nice audio, you'll get people to listen to you. But just test it out, try it, see if it's a thing for you, because I feel like with a low barrier to entry, there is a wide range of like stuff you could do and find an audience that would work with you. And I know a lot of people who do this and go, it's not for me, and walk away. But I also know a lot of people who do this and go, oh, this is like more rewarding than anything I've ever done. And yeah, just give it a shot. I think I'm actually kind of happy that so many people do this now. I think it's really cool.
I'm really glad that you came back to it.
Yeah, I'm glad to.
And I'm excited to see what you do next. And I'm sure the people watching listening rather, will hopefully have a new favorite channel to check out very soon.
Yeah, go check out Geeks Welcome YT here on YouTube.
Don't worry, people, it'll all be in the show notes, so just click on the links. Good night, everyone.
Have a good one.